Unit 731, a covert biological and chemical warfare research unit of the Imperial Japanese Army, operated in Manchuria during the 1930s and 1940s. This facility, disguised as a water purification plant, was the site of unimaginable atrocities. Over 3,000 prisoners, including Chinese, Koreans, and Allied POWs, were subjected to brutal experiments. The compound, surrounded by barbed wire and guarded by soldiers, was designed to conceal its true purpose from the outside world. Inside Unit 731, high-ranking military officials and scientists held meetings to plan inhumane experiments. These discussions were methodical, focusing on maximizing data collection regardless of human cost. Documents reveal that victims were referred to as logs to dehumanize them. The experiments included vivisection, frostbite testing, and plague vector trials, all conducted without anesthesia. Prisoners were transported to Unit 731 under false pretenses, often told they were being relocated for labor. Upon arrival, they were stripped of identities and given numbers. Most were healthy adults, chosen to test human endurance limits. Survivors' accounts describe overcrowded cells, starvation diets, and constant fear. Many were infected with diseases to study their progression. Before vivisections, victims were strapped to operating tables while fully conscious. Medical tools were sterilized not for patient safety, but to avoid contaminating results. Experimenters practiced surgical techniques on living subjects to refine battlefield medicine. Some prisoners were deliberately infected with pathogens hours before dissection to observe organ damage. Vivisections were performed without anesthesia to study physiological responses. Organs were removed systematically while monitoring vital signs. Some victims had limbs amputated to study blood loss, then were revived to repeat the process. The experiments aimed to develop treatments for Japanese soldiers, using prisoners as expendable test subjects. Detailed records note screams and convulsions during procedures. Witness accounts describe experimenters joking during vivisections, treating victims as objects. Junior staff were ordered to participate to build emotional resilience. Laughter served to reinforce group mentality and suppress empathy. This behavior mirrored Imperial Japan's broader dehumanization of occupied populations. Psychologists later compared this to Nazi camp guard behavior. After experiments, bodies were cremated or dumped in mass graves. The facility had dedicated incinerators operating continuously. Some victims' remains were ground into powder for further research. Cleanup crews wore protective gear, not for hygiene, but to avoid contaminating themselves with experimental pathogens. The efficiency of disposal contributed to Unit 731's long secrecy. Unit 731 produced over 20,000 pages of clinical reports. Diagrams showed organ degradation timelines from various pathogens. Temperature readings documented how long humans survived extreme cold. These records were considered militarily valuable. Some were traded to the U.S. for immunity after the war. Modern researchers note the data's scientific flaws due to uncontrolled conditions. As Japan faced defeat in 1945, Unit 731 received orders to destroy evidence. Buildings were dynamited, prisoners executed, and documents burned. The U.S. occupation authorities suppressed information to acquire biological warfare data. Key personnel avoided prosecution by cooperating with American intelligence, leaving victims without justice. Today, the Unit 731 site in Harbin houses a museum, though Japan's government still downplays its history. Many documents remain classified in U.S. and Japanese archives. Survivor testimonies emerged only in the 1980s. The facility stands as a grim reminder of how science can be perverted by militarism and racial ideology when ethical boundaries collapse.